My husband once looked at me, and I want you to know he's a good man, a kind man, a man I love very much. He looked at me once during a week where I'd not slept properly for about 4 nights. My joints felt like they belonged to an 80-year-old, and I'd cried twice at a dog food advert, and he said, "Have you thought about just exercising more?" Listener, I am not ashamed to admit I considered homicide. I chose communication instead, but it was a very, very close call. If you have a partner, a husband, a wife, a significant other who loves you and means well, but has absolutely no idea what's happening to you right now, this episode is the conversation guide neither of you were given. And honestly, you might want to listen to it together. Or, more realistically, you might want to listen to it first and then casually just sort of leave it playing in the kitchen. I'm Laura, this is the Riviera Menopause podcast, and today we're talking about the relationship stuff, not the clinical relationship with your GP type stuff, that's episode 9. Today we're talking about the person who shares your bed, your home, your life, and who's currently watching you go through something enormous while having absolutely no framework for understanding it. I want to be fair to both sides here because I think that both sides deserve it, and I think most conversations about menopause and relationships make one person the villain. Nobody's the villain here. There's just a massive information gap, and today we're closing it. So there is a reason why they don't get it. It's not malice, it's ignorance. Let's start with your partner. And let's be generous, because I think generosity is more useful here than anger, even though anger is totally valid. Your partner does not understand menopause. And the reason they don't understand menopause is that nobody's ever explained it to them. Not school, not their GP, not the internet, not you. And that's not your fault either, because until recently you didn't fully understand it yourself. You might still not fully understand it because it's a pretty tricky one to get your head around. So most men, and I'm going to say men here because that's the majority of partners listening, but this applies to any partner. Most men think menopause is hot flushes and period stopping. That's it. That's the whole picture as far as they're concerned. They don't know about the cortisol, the insulin resistance, the brain fog, the anxiety, the loss of confidence, the joint pain, the identity crisis. They don't know any of it. And because they don't know, they default to the only frameworks they have, which are usually, are you stressed? Have you tried exercising? Maybe you should see the doctor. Are you eating properly? Maybe it's just a phase. And every single one of those suggestions, however well-intentioned, makes you want to throw something at them because they're simplistic. They're dismissive, and they imply that the problem is something you're doing wrong rather than something your body is going through. But here's what I've learned, and it took me longer than I'd like to admit to get this. Your partner is probably not being dismissive. They're being ignorant, and those are very different things. Dismissive means they don't care. Ignorant means they don't know, and ignorance is fixable. Dismissiveness is just a bigger problem. It's a whole different kettle of fish. But most partners, and I say most of them are in the ignorant camp, not the dismissive. Okay, so how do you actually have a conversation with your partner that's going to help? Because just tell him how you feel is useless advice when you're exhausted, emotional, resentful, that you have to explain your own biology to another adult. And you're probably already at a stage where you've had several months of not communicating, of possibly being moody or irrational or not wanting sex or being in pain. And he's probably been there thinking, oh my God, what's going on? So you've had several months of this already. So how do you then start the conversation? I'm going to give you a framework now, and it's really simple, 3 steps. And I'm going to be specific because specific is useful here and vague is not. Step 1, lead with the facts, not feelings. And I know that sounds slightly counterintuitive when a lot of what you're going to be talking about is feelings, but here's why you need to lead with the facts. When you lead with feelings, so something like, I feel like you don't support me, I feel like you don't care, I feel overwhelmed, most partners will hear an accusation. Even when there isn't one intended, their defenses will go up. The conversation becomes about whether they're a good partner and not about what you actually need. So instead, lead with the biology. My body's going through a hormonal transition, and it's affecting my sleep or my energy or my mood or my ability to cope or whatever it is. It's not emotional, it's physiological and it's temporary. But right now I need different things from you than I used to. That's a completely different conversation opener. It's not an accusation, it's a briefing. You're giving them information and context, not blame. And most partners, most people actually, respond much better to a briefing than to a grievance. Step number 2, ask for specific things, not a general kind of understanding. So if you say something like, I need you to understand what I'm going through, that's just a big, vague, impossible request. I mean, what does understanding look like? How would they demonstrate it? They don't know. You don't know. And both of you are going to end up just massively frustrated and resentful. So instead, try something like, when I say I'm too tired to cook, I need you not to suggest takeaway as if that solves everything. I need you to actually cook. Or, when I'm anxious, I don't need solutions. I need you to sit with me and not try and fix it, but just be there. Or, please don't comment on what I'm eating. I'm trying to manage my nutrition here and I need you to trust me with it. Specific, actionable, clear. Your partner is not a mind reader. As much as we wish they are, we all know that they're not capable of anything even remotely resembling mind reading. And frankly, expecting them to sense what you need when they don't even understand what's happening to you is just a recipe for resentment on both sides. Tell them exactly what helps. Give them a chance to do it and give them a chance to step up. Step 3, acknowledging what they're going through too. And I know this one might feel like a lot right now because you're the one going through menopause, right? You're the one that's experiencing all of the symptoms. But your partner is living with someone who's changed, who's less available, less patient, probably less present, less interested in things they used to share, certainly less interested in intimacy. And they're grieving that in their own way without any support or language for it. They're grieving. And a single sentence can go a really long way here. So something like, I know this is hard for you too. I know I'm different right now. Thank you for being patient. You don't have to mean it every single time you say it and every day, but saying it once opens a door that blame keeps closed, and you need that door open to start communicating. So there is a thing that no one really wants to talk about, but we're going to go there now because we have to. Libido. Libido changes in menopause are physiological. They are not a reflection of your feelings about your partner. They're not a sign that something's wrong with your relationship. Estrogen and testosterone both influence desire, arousal, and physical comfort. When they decline, libido often declines with them. Vaginal dryness can make intercourse uncomfortable or even painful. And when something hurts or doesn't feel good, your body stops wanting it. It's not a rejection. That is just self-preservation. And your partner needs to hear this. They need to know it's not about them necessarily. And they don't need to hear it from a pamphlet, but they need to hear it from you, in your words. So saying something like, my body's going through changes that affect how I can experience this. It's not about you, it's not about us, it's hormonal. And we need to have an honest conversation about what works for both of us right now, because what worked before might not work for a while. That's a really brave conversation to have. It's a difficult conversation to have if you're not used to talking like that to your partner. But it is a necessary one, because the alternative, which is what most couples do, is silence. So one person feels rejected, the other person feels guilty, both pretend nothing's wrong, and the distance is just growing. And I'm not a relationship therapist, and I'm not going to pretend to be, but I can tell you that the couples who navigate menopause well are the ones who talk about it. Not perfectly, not elegantly, sometimes badly, but they talk. And the ones who don't talk are the ones who find themselves on the opposite sides of a growing gap, a chasm of resentment. And there are also practical things that help with intimacy during menopause. So lubricants, I mean, use them without shame. These are not dirty things. These are things there to help you. Topical estrogen, speak to your GP about it because it's a game changer for many women. And redefine intimacy to include things that don't revolve around penetration. So closeness, touch, physical affection, time together. Intimacy is bigger than just sex. And menopause is an invitation to rediscover that. So now is time for an honest acknowledgement. And I want to say something honest here because I think honesty is more respectful than pretending. For some women, menopause exposes cracks that were already there in the relationship. If the relationship was already unequal, if you're already doing too much, carrying too much, compromising too much, menopause has a way of making that visible because you no longer have the hormonal resilience to tolerate it. The patience you used to have was partly progesterone fueled. Now it's gone. And the things you used to absorb, you just cannot absorb them anymore. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of clarifying. Often painful, but clarifying. And some women use this period to have conversations that are way long overdue about boundaries, about load, about what they will and will not accept in their lives. And those conversations sometimes improve the relationship dramatically, and sometimes they don't. I'm not going to wrap it in a bow. If your relationship needs more than a podcast episode, seek that help, because a good couples therapist is worth every penny. What I can tell you is that menopause is often not the cause of the bad relationship, but it's often the catalyst that forces you to address one. So, your one thing this week, and it's the simplest, bravest one yet. Send your partner the link to this episode, just this one, with a message that says, "This explains it better than I can right now. Listen to this and then let's talk." You don't have to have the whole conversation this week. You just have to open the door. Send the link. That's the door. And if you don't have a partner, or if this episode isn't relevant to your situation, here's an alternative one thing. Send it to a friend whose partner doesn't get it, because you know who she is, and she probably needs this. So this episode was a bit of a big one. Relationships are complicated at the best of times, and menopause adds a layer of complexity that nobody is ever prepared for. But here's what I believe. Most partners do want to help. They genuinely do. They just don't know how. And the gap between I want to help and I know how to help is an information gap. That's all it is. And information gaps are fixable. Your closest relationship is your primary environment where you thrive or dive. And if it's working for you, everything else in your journey is going to be easier. And if it's not working for you, then everything else is going to be much, much harder. This episode is about making sure that it does work for you. So next week, we're talking about the thing I am most passionate about in the entire menopause conversation: strength training, lifting heavy things, why muscle is the single most important tissue in your menopausal body, and why the most powerful thing you can do right now has nothing to do with cardio, supplements, or salad. If this episode made you think of someone, then please send it to them. The woman who's fighting with her partner every night and doesn't know why, the man who's trying his best and getting it wrong, send this to both of them. It might help. I'm Laura, this is the Riviera Menopause, and your relationship isn't doomed, it just needs a better briefing. So for now, that's me signing off with love from Monaco. I'll see you next week.